Commander Sarah Mitchell felt the familiar rush of adrenaline as her fighter, the Valkyrie, screamed through space at velocities that would liquefy most organic beings. Her inertial dampeners, a product of Earth's most advanced technology, kept her body intact as she pulled maneuvers that violated every known law of physics that other species thought they understood. "Arya, give me a tactical assessment," she said to her ship's artificial intelligence. "5 hostiles confirmed, Captain. 4th-class raiders heavily armed. The civilian vessel has sustained significant damage and appears to be defenseless. Enemy weapons are charging." Sarah's jaw tightened. She had been conducting a routine patrol near the edge of Terran space when the desperate distress signal had reached her. The message had been garbled, transmitted in multiple alien languages, but the universal translator had managed to piece together enough to understand that innocent beings were in mortal danger. Humanity had only recently emerged onto the galactic stage, and most alien species were still unaware of their existence. The Galactic Cooperative had strict protocols about first contact, but Sarah's orders from Earth Command were clear. Any distress signal was to be answered, regardless of the political implications. The Vorthak ships opened fire simultaneously, sending streams of superheated plasma racing toward her position. To any observer, it would seem impossible for a single small craft to avoid such concentrated firepower. But Sarah Mitchell wasn't just any pilot. She was the best that humanity had to offer, trained from birth in the brutal academies of Earth's military elite. She threw the Valkyrie into a spiral dive that would have torn apart any conventional spacecraft. The plasma bolts passed harmlessly through the space she had occupied microseconds before. Her ship's adaptive armor, composed of programmable matter, shifted and flowed to deflect the residual energy. "Impressive evasion," Arya commented in her crisp British accent. "Shall we return the favor?" "Light them up," Sarah replied grimly. The Valkyrie's weapon systems were unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. Instead of the energy-based armaments favored by most species, humanity had perfected kinetic warfare to an art form. Railguns fired projectiles at significant fractions of light speed, while missile systems used exotic matter warheads that could phase through conventional shields. Sarah targeted the lead Vorthak ship and fired a spread of kinetic penetrators. The tungsten rods, accelerated to incredible velocities, punched through the raiders' shields as if they were paper. The Vorthak vessel's hull buckled and twisted as the projectiles transferred their kinetic energy, causing catastrophic system failures throughout the ship. What was that? Came a panicked transmission from one of the remaining Vorthak vessels. "Their weapons passed right through our shields." The alien crew of the Stellar Harmony watched in stunned amazement as the impossible unfolded before them. The tiny Terran ship moved like a living thing, flowing through space with grace and precision that seemed to mock the laws of physics. Its weapons, whatever they were, had just crippled a Vorthak raider in a single volley. "By the 7 moons," breathed Captain Zara 9. "What kind of species are these Terrans?" Dr. Vex was frantically analyzing the sensor data. "Captain, the readings I'm getting are impossible. That ship just pulled 17 gravities of acceleration without showing any structural stress. And their weapons. They're using some form of kinetic bombardment that completely bypasses standard defensive systems." The Vorthak war leader was clearly shaken, but not defeated. "All ships concentrate fire on the unknown vessel. Use everything we have." The remaining 4 raiders spread out in a standard attack formation, their plasma cannons charging to maximum power. They fired in sequence, creating a web of destructive energy that should have been impossible to escape. Sarah saw the attack coming and smiled grimly. Time to show them what human reflexes can do. She triggered the Valkyrie's emergency acceleration systems, pushing her ship to velocities that existed at the very edge of possibility. The fighter became a blur of motion, weaving between plasma bolts with impossible precision. Her neural interface, a direct connection between her brain and the ship's computer systems, allowed her to react at speeds that no unaugmented biological being could match. "Area. Mark targets 2 and 3 for elimination. Use the quantum torpedoes, acknowledged. Firing solution calculated." 2 sleek missiles emerged from the Valkyrie's weapon bays. Unlike conventional torpedoes, these weapons used principles of quantum mechanics that most galactic civilizations hadn't even theorized about. They existed in a state of probability until the moment of impact, making them impossible to intercept or defend against. The Vorthak ships never saw them coming. The quantum torpedoes materialized inside their hulls and detonated, creating localized space-time distortions that tore the raiders apart from the inside out. 2 more Vorthak vessels died in brilliant explosions that lit up the darkness of space. On the bridge of the Stellar Harmony, the alien crew sat in shocked silence. In less than 3 minutes, a single small ship had destroyed 3 of the most feared warships in the sector. "Impossible," whispered Thok, his rocky features expressing disbelief. "No one fights the Vorthak like that and lives." Captain Zara 9 was beginning to understand that they were witnessing something unprecedented. These Terrans, whoever they were, possessed technology and combat capabilities far beyond anything in the known galaxy. The 2 surviving Vorthak ships were clearly having the same realization. Their leader's voice crackled over the communication channels filled with fear and rage. "What are you? What species possesses such power?" Sarah's response was calm and professional. "I am human. We are from a world called Earth, and you made a very serious mistake when you decided to attack innocent beings in our presence." She lined up her next attack run, targeting the larger of the 2 remaining vessels. The Vorthak ship tried to flee, its engines straining to escape the impossible predator that had appeared from nowhere. But human technology had been forged in the crucible of Earth's violent history, refined through centuries of warfare and competition. The Valkyrie caught up with the fleeing raider in seconds. Sarah fired a concentrated burst from her primary railgun, the tungsten slugs punching through the ship's armor and detonating its power core. The Vorthak vessel disintegrated in a cascade of secondary explosions. Only 1 enemy ship remained, and its crew was clearly paralyzed with terror. The war leader's voice was barely a whisper when he transmitted his surrender. "We yield. We yield to the humans. Please show mercy." Sarah could have easily destroyed the final ship, but something in the alien's voice gave her pause. These were raiders and killers, but they were also living beings who had just seen their entire worldview shattered in the span of minutes. "You will leave this system immediately," she transmitted back. "If I ever encounter you threatening innocent beings again, there will be no mercy. Do you understand?" "Yes. Yes, we understand. We will spread word of human power throughout the sector. No Vorthak will dare to raid in your presence." The surviving ship fled at maximum speed, disappearing into the depths of space. Sarah watched it go, knowing that word of this encounter would spread quickly through the galactic underworld. Earth's secret was out now, but perhaps that wasn't entirely a bad thing. She turned her attention to the damaged civilian vessel that had started this whole encounter. The ship was clearly in distress, its hull breached in multiple places and its engines failing. "Civilian vessel, this is Commander Mitchell. What is your status? Do you require assistance?" The response came in that strange clicking language, hastily translated by their systems. "Commander Mitchell, this is Captain Zara 9 of the Galactic Cooperative Vessel Stellar Harmony. We cannot express our gratitude. You saved our lives when all seemed lost." Sarah smiled, her heart warming at the relief in the alien captain's voice. "Just doing my job, Captain. Let me help you with those repairs." Captain Zara 9's forearms trembled as she gripped the communication console of her dying ship, the Stellar Harmony. The Cathari cruiser had been her pride for over 3 decades, but now its hull groaned under the relentless assault of plasma fire from the Vorthak raiders surrounding them. Sparks erupted from damaged panels as her diverse crew of 12 different species worked desperately to keep their vessel operational. "Engineering report." She barked through her translator, her natural clicking language converted to galactic standard. "Hull integrity at 37% and falling," responded Thok, her Gorvanian engineer. His massive rock-like form was bent over a control station, his 6 eyes focused on the cascading system failures. "Main engines are offline, and we've lost 2 of our 3 shield generators." Through the viewport, Zara could see the sleek, predatory forms of 5 Vorthak attack ships circling them like vultures. The Vorthak were among the most feared raiders in this sector of the galaxy, known for their brutal efficiency and their complete lack of mercy toward other species. Their ships moved with deadly grace, black hulls adorned with the crimson markings of their war clans. "Why haven't they finished us?" whispered Kelness, her ethereal navigator. The translucent, jellyfish-like being's bioluminescent patterns flickered with fear. Zara knew the answer, and it chilled her to her core. The Vorthak weren't trying to destroy them quickly. They were playing with their prey, savoring the hunt. Soon they would board the ship, take whatever technology and resources they wanted, and then either enslave or execute the crew. It was their way. "Captain," called out Yip, her communications officer. The small, fur-covered Ricari's ears were flat against his head in distress. "The Vorthak are demanding our surrender. They're giving us 2 standard minutes to comply." Zara's mandibles clicked in frustration. The Stellar Harmony was a peaceful exploration vessel, equipped with only basic defensive systems. They had been conducting a routine survey of an uncharted system when the raiders had appeared, seemingly from nowhere. Her crew consisted of scientists, explorers, and researchers from across the Galactic Cooperative. They were utterly unprepared for combat. "Options?" she asked her senior staff. "We could try to make a run for the asteroid field," suggested Dr. Vex, her crystalline science officer. "The interference might mask our heat signature. With our engines damaged, we'd be sitting ducks," Thok rumbled, his voice like grinding stone. "The escape pods?" offered Kelness hopefully. "The Vorthak would just pick them off one by one," Zara replied grimly. She had seen the aftermath of Vorthak raids before. They showed no mercy to escapees. A new voice crackled over the comm system, harsh and guttural. It was the Vorthak war leader. "Cooperative vessel, you have 1 minute remaining. Surrender now and your deaths will be swift. Resist further, and we will make you suffer before the end." Zara's crew looked to her with a mixture of hope and despair. She was their captain, and they trusted her to find a way out of this impossible situation. But for the first time in her long career, she felt truly helpless. Then Yip's ears suddenly perked up. "Captain, I'm detecting something strange on the long-range sensors. There's a signal coming from the edge of the system." "Vorthak reinforcements?" Zara asked, her heart sinking. "No, ma'am. The signature is completely unknown, and it's moving fast, very fast." On the tactical display, a new contact appeared. It was small, much smaller than any of the ships in their current predicament, but it was approaching at a velocity that seemed impossible for something its size. "That can't be right," Dr. Vex chimed, his crystalline body refracting light as he analyzed the data. "According to these readings, that object is traveling at nearly 90% light speed. Nothing that small should be able to achieve such velocity without tearing itself apart." The Vorthak had noticed the new arrival as well. Their formation shifted slightly, becoming more defensive. Even they seemed uncertain about this unexpected development. "Captain," Yip said, his voice filled with wonder, "I'm receiving a transmission from the unknown vessel. It's on an emergency frequency, and the language is, well, it's not in any of our databases." "Put it through," Zara ordered. A voice filled the bridge, speaking in a language none of them recognized. The words were sharp and aggressive, yet somehow reassuring. The translator struggled for a moment before managing a rough conversion. "Unknown vessels, this is Commander Sarah Mitchell of the Terran Space Force. I received your distress signal. Am inbound to assist. Suggest you hold tight and prepare for combat maneuvering." "Terran?" Dr. Vex's voice was puzzled. "I've never heard of that species." "Neither have I," Zara admitted. "But whoever they are, they seem willing to help." The small craft was now close enough for visual confirmation. It was unlike anything in their databases. Sleek and angular, with a design philosophy that seemed to prioritize speed and maneuverability over size or apparent firepower. Strange markings were visible on its hull, symbols that looked almost primitive compared to the flowing script used by most galactic civilizations. "This is insane," Thok muttered. "That ship is barely larger than our shuttle, and they think they can take on 5 Vorthak raiders?" The Vorthak seemed to share his assessment. Their leader's voice boomed across all frequencies, speaking in broken galactic standard. "Unknown vessel, you will withdraw immediately or be destroyed. This is Vorthak territory. Your interference will not be tolerated." The response from the small ship was immediate and filled with what could only be described as confident amusement. "Vorthak vessels, this is your only warning. Release the civilian ship and withdraw from this system immediately, or I will be forced to take action." Even Zara was shocked by the audacity. A single small craft piloted by an unknown species was challenging 5 of the most feared warships in the sector. It was either incredibly brave or utterly insane. "Captain," Kelness whispered, "should we try to warn them? They don't seem to understand what they're up against." Before Zara could respond, the Vorthak war leader made the decision for them. "You dare threaten the Vorthak? Your ignorance will be your death." The 5 raider ships turned toward the newcomer, their weapons charging with deadly intent. Plasma cannons swiveled to target the small Terran vessel, and torpedo tubes opened like hungry mouths. "This is about to become a massacre," Dr. Vex said quietly, but as they watched, something extraordinary happened. The small Terran ship suddenly accelerated beyond anything they thought possible, moving in ways that defied conventional understanding of physics and engineering. The real fight was about to begin. Captain Zara 9 watched through the viewport as the impossible Terran ship moved alongside the Stellar Harmony with delicate precision. The vessel that had just single-handedly destroyed 4 Vorthak raiders now maneuvered with the gentle care of a medical transport, matching their damaged ship's slow rotation and drift. "Captain?" Yip called out, his furry ears perked with excitement. "The human is requesting permission to dock. She says she has repair equipment that might help with our damage." Zara hesitated for a moment. They knew nothing about these Terrans beyond their incredible combat abilities. For all she knew, this could be some elaborate ruse, but then she looked around at her bridge, seeing the sparking consoles, the emergency lighting, and the fear still lingering in her crew's eyes. They didn't have much choice. Grant docking permission, she decided, but keep security teams ready just in case. Thok's rocky features showed concern. "Captain, are we sure about this? We've never encountered this species before. They could be just as dangerous as the Vorthak. They could have destroyed us along with the raiders if they meant us harm," Dr. Vex observed, his crystalline body refracting the emergency lighting into prismatic patterns. "Their technology is clearly superior to ours." Through the docking bay cameras, they watched as a small shuttle detached from the Terran fighter. It was sleek and angular, matching the design philosophy of the larger ship. As it approached their docking bay, Zara could see it was barely large enough for 1 or 2 beings. The shuttle touched down with barely a whisper, its landing system so advanced that it created no vibration whatsoever. The docking bay's atmospheric processors worked to equalize pressure and atmosphere, though they weren't sure what kind of environment the Terran would require. "Atmospheric analysis complete," reported Kelness, her translucent form pulsing with nervous bioluminescence. "The shuttle is venting a nitrogen-oxygen mixture, very similar to several species we know, though with some trace gases we don't recognize." A few minutes later, the shuttle's airlock opened, and Commander Sarah Mitchell stepped into their ship. Zara's first thought was how surprisingly small the human appeared. She stood barely 2 meters tall with a lean but obviously muscled build. Her skin was a warm brown color, and her dark hair was pulled back in a practical style. What struck Zara most were her eyes. They held an intensity and alertness that spoke of a predator species, yet also showed genuine warmth and concern. Sarah wore a form-fitting suit that seemed to be both protective gear and some kind of technological interface. Small lights blinked along its surface, and Zara could see what appeared to be miniature displays showing various readouts. "Captain Zara 9, I presume," Sarah said, her translator rendering her words in perfect galactic standard. She approached with her hands visible and open, clearly trying to appear non-threatening. "Commander Mitchell," Zara replied, her forearms performing a traditional Cathari greeting gesture. "We are deeply in your debt. Without your intervention, we would all be dead or worse." Sarah waved dismissively. "No debt necessary. Where I come from, you help people in trouble. It's just what you do." She looked around the damaged bridge, her sharp eyes taking in every detail. "Looks like you took quite a beating. Mind if I take a look at your systems?" Over the next hour, Sarah worked alongside Zara's crew to assess the damage. Her technological knowledge was astounding. She seemed to understand their systems better than some of their own engineers, despite having never encountered galactic cooperative technology before. "Your power distribution network is fascinating," Sarah commented as she worked alongside Thok in the engineering section. The massive Gorvanian watched in amazement as the small human fearlessly crawled into spaces that would challenge beings half her size. "You're using quantum entanglement for instantaneous power routing. We've theorized about this but never implemented it on this scale. What kind of power systems do your people use?" Thok asked, his 6 eyes focused on Sarah's every movement. "Mostly zero-point energy extractors and antimatter reactors," Sarah replied casually, as if she were discussing the weather. "Though we're working on some promising applications of controlled microsingularities." Thok nearly dropped his tools. Zero-point energy was theoretical to most galactic civilizations. Antimatter reactors were incredibly dangerous, and only used by the most advanced species. and controlled micro-singularities were pure science fiction. Meanwhile, Dr. Vex was having his own revelations about human technology. Sarah had produced a small device from her suit that could analyze and repair damaged circuits at the molecular level. "This is impossible," he muttered, watching the device work. "You're manipulating matter at the quantum level with a handheld tool." "Standard repair kit," Sarah said with a shrug. "Every pilot carries one, though I'll admit this is military grade. The civilian versions aren't quite as versatile." Captain Zara 9 found herself drawn into conversation with Sarah as they worked. The human was surprisingly easy to talk to, despite the vast differences in their species and cultures. "How did you know we were in distress?" Zara asked. "Your ship appeared so quickly, almost as if you were expecting trouble." "I was on patrol about 3 light years away when your distress signal reached me," Sarah explained, carefully reconnecting a damaged power coupling. "Our long-range sensors are pretty sensitive. When we detected the Vorthak attack, I came as fast as I could." 3 light years? Zara was stunned. But that should have taken hours, even at maximum faster-than-light speeds. "Human FTL technology is a bit different from what you might be used to," Sarah said with a slight smile. "We don't use hyperspace lanes or dimensional folding. Our ships create localized space-time distortions that allow for near-instantaneous travel across moderate distances." Yip, who had been listening from his communications station, couldn't contain his curiosity. "Commander Mitchell, if you don't mind me asking, how long has your species been spacefaring?" Sarah paused in her work, thinking. "We achieved our first manned spaceflight about 200 years ago. Interstellar travel came about 50 years later. We've only been exploring beyond our immediate stellar neighborhood for the past 20 years or so." The bridge fell silent. Every member of Zara's crew was staring at Sarah in disbelief. Most galactic civilizations took millennia to develop the technology they had just witnessed. The Cathari had been in space for over 3,000 years and still couldn't match what this young human species had accomplished. 20 years? Kelness whispered, her bioluminescent patterns flickering rapidly. "But your technology is so advanced. How is that possible?" Sarah's expression grew more serious. "Humans have always been good at learning quickly. Our planet, well, let's just say it gave us plenty of motivation to develop effective technologies. When survival is on the line, you tend to innovate fast." Dr. Vex was processing this information with growing amazement. "Commander, you mentioned that you've never encountered our species before. Yet you seem to understand our technology perfectly." "How?" "Pattern recognition," Sarah replied. "Once you understand the fundamental principles of physics and engineering, most technological solutions follow logical paths. Your quantum power distribution system, for example, the mathematics behind it are elegant. But the basic concept is straightforward once you see how the components interact." She finished her repairs and stood up, brushing off her hands. "That should hold you until you can reach a proper shipyard. Your engines are back online, and I've reinforced your hull breaches with some emergency patches." Captain Zara 9 ran a quick systems check and was amazed to see that their ship was now operating at nearly full capacity. What would have taken her crew days to repair, the human had fixed in just over an hour. "Commander Mitchell," she said formally, "the Galactic Cooperative needs to know about your species. The technology you've demonstrated, your combat capabilities, your humanitarian instincts. These are the qualities of a species that could greatly benefit our alliance." Sarah's expression became thoughtful. "I appreciate the sentiment, Captain, but first contact protocols are a bit above my pay grade. I'll need to report this encounter to my superiors on Earth. They'll decide how to proceed with formal diplomatic relations." "Of course," Zara nodded, "but please let them know that you will find friends among the cooperative species. What you did today, saving beings you had never met, asking for nothing in return, this speaks to the character of your people." Sarah smiled warmly. "I'll make sure they know. In the meantime, I'll escort you to the edge of this system to make sure you don't run into any more trouble." As she prepared to return to her shuttle, Sarah paused and looked back at the diverse crew of the Stellar Harmony. "Captain, if you don't mind me asking, what were you doing out here in uncharted space?" "Scientific exploration," Zara replied. "We were surveying this system for potential habitable worlds. The Galactic Cooperative is always seeking new knowledge and new places where our member species might establish colonies." Sarah nodded approvingly. "A noble mission. I hope you find what you're looking for." As the human pilot departed, Zara's crew watched her shuttle return to the impossible fighter that had saved their lives. They all understood that they had just witnessed something historic. First contact with a species that might well. Sarah Mitchell's return journey to Earth gave her plenty of time to think about the implications of her encounter with the stellar harmony. The Valkyrie's advanced autopilot handled navigation while she compiled her mission report, trying to capture the significance of humanity's first official contact with galactic civilization. Aria, what's your assessment of the alien crew's technological capabilities? She asked her AI companion. Fascinating, Captain. Their technology is sophisticated but follows predictable evolutionary patterns. They've achieved quantum power distribution and faster-than-light travel, but their materials science and weapons technology lag significantly behind human developments. Most interesting is their apparent lack of artificial intelligence beyond basic computer systems. Sarah nodded thoughtfully. She had noticed that the aliens seemed amazed by Aria's responses, as if true AI was foreign to them. Any thoughts on why they might have developed differently? Speculation based on observed behavior patterns suggests they prioritized cooperation and peaceful development over military advancement. Their ship was designed for exploration and research, not combat. This may have influenced their entire technological development path. As Earth grew larger in her view screen, Sarah felt a mixture of excitement and apprehension. Humanity had always wondered if they were alone in the universe. Now she carried proof that not only were there other intelligent species, but they had formed some kind of galactic alliance. The debriefing at Earth Command took 18 hours. Fleet Admiral Chen, a stern woman with silver hair and sharp eyes, listened intently as Sarah recounted every detail of the encounter. Around the briefing table sat representatives from various Earth agencies, military intelligence, diplomatic corps, scientific research divisions, and even economists trying to understand the implications of galactic trade. You're certain about their technological assessments? Asked Dr. Harrison, head of the Terrestrial Technology Institute. They seem surprised by our standard equipment? Very surprised, Sarah confirmed. Our basic repair tools amaze them. They called zero-point energy extraction theoretical, and they'd never seen quantum-level matter. Manipulation. Interesting, mused Ambassador Rodriguez from the Diplomatic Corps. This, Captain Zara 9 mentioned something called the Galactic Cooperative. Did she elaborate on its structure? Not in detail, but she indicated it's an alliance of multiple species focused on peaceful exploration and mutual benefit. She seemed genuinely interested in extending an invitation to humanity. Admiral Chen leaned forward. And the Vorthak Raiders? What was your assessment of their capabilities? Sarah's expression hardened. Dangerous to civilian vessels, but their technology is actually inferior to ours in most areas. Their weapons couldn't penetrate our adaptive armor, and their ship design prioritizes intimidation over effectiveness. If we encounter more of them, they shouldn't pose a significant threat to our military vessels, but they might pose a threat to our civilian populations, Dr. Sarah Kim from the Colonial Development Authority pointed out. If we're going to join this galactic community, we need to consider the security implications. The discussion continued for hours, touching on everything from trade opportunities to defensive strategies. Finally, Admiral Chen called for a break and asked Sarah to remain behind. Off the record, Commander, the Admiral said once they were alone. What's your gut feeling about these aliens? Sarah considered the question carefully. They seemed genuinely grateful and peaceful, Admiral. Captain Zara 9's crew was diverse, multiple species working together toward common goals. Their distress was real, and their relief when I helped them was sincere. I think they represent an opportunity for humanity, not a threat, even though our technology appears to be superior. Maybe especially because of that, Sarah replied. They could have seen our capabilities as a threat, but instead they seemed excited about the possibility of cooperation. That suggests a level of maturity and wisdom we should respect. Admiral Chen nodded slowly. Very well. I'm recommending that we proceed with formal first contact protocols. You'll be our primary liaison, Commander. Congratulations. You just became humanity's first galactic diplomat. 3 weeks later, Sarah found herself back in space, but this time aboard the UNS Endeavour, Earth's most advanced diplomatic vessel. The ship was a marvel of human engineering, designed to impress while remaining obviously peaceful. Its hull gleamed with adaptive armor that could display artistic patterns, and its sensor arrays were powerful enough to scan entire star systems. Accompanying her was a full diplomatic team led by Ambassador Elena Vasquez, a woman whose reputation for negotiating complex interstellar agreements preceded her. The mission was to locate the stellar harmony and open formal diplomatic relations with the Galactic Cooperative. "Contact established, Captain," reported Lieutenant Torres from the communications station. "The alien vessel is responding to our hail." Captain Zara-9's image appeared on the main screen, her four-armed form instantly recognizable. Her mandibles clicked in what Sarah had learned was an expression of joy. "Commander Mitchell, what a wonderful surprise. We had hoped to encounter your people again." "Captain Zara-9," Sarah replied warmly. "I'm pleased to introduce Ambassador Elena Vasquez, Earth's official representative for first contact negotiations." The ambassador stepped forward with practiced diplomatic grace. "Captain, it's an honor to meet you." Commander Mitchell's report of your encounter has generated considerable excitement on Earth. We're very interested in learning more about the Galactic Cooperative and exploring the possibility of formal relations. What followed was humanity's first true diplomatic contact with galactic civilization. Captain Zara-9 proved to be an excellent cultural guide, explaining the structure and principles of the Galactic Cooperative with patience and enthusiasm. "The cooperative consists of 47 member species," she explained, during a formal dinner aboard the Endeavour. "Each species maintains sovereignty over their home systems, while contributing to shared goals of exploration, scientific advancement, and mutual defense." Dr. Chen, the expedition's chief scientist, leaned forward with interest. "Mutual defense? Against threats like the Vorthak?" "The Vorthak are one concern, but not the only one," Dr. Vex replied, his crystalline body catching the light. "There are several aggressive species that reject cooperative principles. The hegemony of Krell, for example, believes in conquest and subjugation. The swarm intelligence seeks to assimilate all biological life. And there are others." Ambassador Vasquez asked the critical question: "What would membership in the cooperative require from humanity?" "Primarily, a commitment to peaceful coexistence and the sharing of scientific knowledge," Captain Zara-9 answered. "Member species are expected to contribute to collective defense and to respect the sovereignty of other members. Beyond that, each species is free to develop according to their own cultural values." The negotiations continued for days, with technical teams from both sides exchanging information about their respective technologies and capabilities. The humans were impressed by the cooperative's vast network of trade routes and research stations. The aliens were astounded by humanity's rapid technological development and military capabilities. "Your species achieved in decades what took most of us centuries," Kelness observed during one of the technical sessions. "How did you develop faster than light travel so quickly?" Sarah exchanged glances with the human technical team before answering carefully. "Humanity has always been driven by curiosity and the need to explore. When we discovered the theoretical framework for FTL travel, we dedicated enormous resources to making it practical." What she didn't mention was the darker truth, that much of humanity's rapid technological advancement had been driven by military competition and the need to defend themselves against potential threats. Earth's violent history had forged a species that excelled at innovation under pressure. The cultural exchange proved just as fascinating as the technical discussions. The aliens were intrigued by human art, music, and literature, especially stories of exploration and adventure. In return, they shared their own cultural achievements: mathematical symphonies from the crystalline species, living sculptures from the ethereal beings, and philosophical treatises from the ancient Gorvanian civilization. "Your species has a remarkable diversity of creative expression," Dr. Vex commented as he studied a holographic display of human artwork. "These paintings and sculptures suggest a people driven by both emotion and intellect." "Art has always been important to us," Ambassador Vasquez replied. "It helps us understand ourselves and communicate ideas that words alone cannot express." By the end of the week, it was clear that both sides were enthusiastic about the prospect of formal relations. Captain Zara-9 transmitted an official invitation for humanity to send a delegation to the cooperative's capital world, while Ambassador Vasquez extended an invitation for alien representatives to visit Earth. "There is one concern," Captain Zara-9 mentioned during their final meeting. Your species' advanced military capabilities will undoubtedly attract attention from the cooperative's enemies. Are your people prepared for the possibility of conflict? Sarah answered without hesitation. Captain, humanity learned long ago the 6 months after first contact, the galactic cooperative's capital world of Nexus Prime buzzed with unprecedented activity. The massive space station, built at the intersection of dozens of major hyperspace routes, served as the political and cultural heart of the Alliance. Its rotating sections housed representatives from 47 different species, and now it was preparing to welcome its 48th High Counselor Zentar of the ancient Veltar Collective, stood at the observation deck of the Grand Assembly Hall, watching human ships approach through the cosmic void. The sight was both impressive and unsettling. Where most species arrived with single diplomatic vessels accompanied by modest escorts, the humans came with a full fleet. The lead ship, designated as the UNS New Horizons, was a masterpiece of engineering that defied conventional starship design. Its hull seemed to flow like liquid metal, constantly shifting and adapting to optimize its configuration for current conditions. Flanking it were 6 escort vessels that moved with the precision of a synchronized dance, their formations so perfect they seemed to be controlled by a single mind. Impressive, commented Counselor Threnax, a massive Gorvanian whose rocky features betrayed no emotion. Though I wonder if such a display of military might is truly necessary for a diplomatic mission. High Counselor Zentar's energy field flickered with contemplation. The Veltar were beings of pure thought, existing as organized electromagnetic patterns within specially designed containment suits. This gave them unique perspectives on both the nature of intelligence and the patterns of galactic politics. The humans learned of our existence through violence, Zentar observed. Perhaps they simply wish to ensure that such violence cannot threaten their diplomatic mission. On the bridge of the New Horizons, Admiral Rebecca Santos reviewed the final approach protocols with her diplomatic team. As humanity's first ambassador to the Galactic Cooperative, she carried the hopes and fears of an entire species. The stakes couldn't be higher. Admiral, reported Captain Williams from the navigation station, Nexus Prime Traffic Control is requesting that we reduce our escort formation to standard diplomatic protocols. Comply with their request, Santos ordered. Signal the escort vessels to maintain standard formation. We're here to make friends, not intimidate anyone. Beside her, Commander Sarah Mitchell smiled slightly. Her role as military attaché and cultural liaison had evolved significantly since her first encounter with the Stellar Harmony. She now served as humanity's primary expert on galactic military capabilities and customs. Nervous? Sarah asked the Admiral quietly. Terrified, Santos admitted with a wry grin. I've negotiated trade agreements and peace treaties across human space, but this is something entirely different. We're not just representing Earth anymore. We're representing our entire species' future in the galaxy. The docking procedures at Nexus Prime were unlike anything in human experience. The station's adaptive docking bays actually reconfigured themselves to accommodate the New Horizons' unique design, extending flexible connection tunnels that formed perfect environmental seals. The technology was elegant and efficient, clearly the product of centuries of cooperation between species with vastly different requirements. Admiral Santos led the human delegation through corridors that defied architectural logic. The station's interior was a marvel of adaptive design, with gravity fields that adjusted to accommodate different species' comfort zones and atmospheric processors that created environmental pockets suitable for diverse forms of life. Their guide was a being called Harmonizer Keyless, a member of the Symphonic Collective, a species that communicated through complex musical patterns. The translator technology struggled with their language, sometimes rendering their speech as pure melody rather than words. Welcome, greeting, joy to Nexus Prime. Humans, new friends, Kalis chimed, their crystalline body resonating with harmonic frequencies. Great anticipation excitement fills the assembly for your arrival presence gift. They pass through districts that showcase the incredible diversity of galactic civilization. Gardens tended by plant-like Verdanian caretakers grew in impossible spirals, defying gravity through biological manipulation. Markets run by the insectoid hive mind species buzzed with activity as thousands of drones coordinated complex transactions through pheromone signals. This is incredible, whispered Dr. Amanda Foster, the expedition's lead xenobiologist. The biodiversity here represents evolutionary paths that Earth never explored. Some of these species challenge our fundamental assumptions about the nature of life itself. Admiral Santos nodded, trying to process the overwhelming sensory input while maintaining her diplomatic composure. Stay focused, people. We're not just tourists here. Every interaction, every observation, could impact humanity's future relationship with these civilizations. The Grand Assembly Hall was a structure that seemed to exist in more than 3 dimensions. Its geometry hurt to look at directly, suggesting architecture designed by species with radically different spatial perception. Representatives from dozens of worlds filled seats that accommodated every conceivable body type, from gas-filled environment suits to beings that appeared to be living crystals. High Counselor Zentar's electromagnetic field pulsed in what humans would later learn was a gesture of welcome. Representatives of Earth, the Galactic Cooperative greets you with joy and anticipation. Your species' actions in defending the crew of the Stellar Harmony have already demonstrated the qualities we value most highly: courage, compassion, and the willingness to protect innocent life. Admiral Santos stepped forward, her dress uniform representing humanity at its finest. High Counselor, distinguished representatives, I bring greetings from Earth and the United Nations of Terra. We are honored by your invitation and eager to explore how humanity might contribute to the Cooperative's noble mission. What followed was the most complex diplomatic negotiation in human history. The Cooperative's charter was a document that had evolved over millennia, incorporating the values and customs of dozens of species. Humanity's integration would require careful consideration of their unique characteristics and capabilities. Counselor Marith of the Ethereal Communion raised a point that had been concerning many representatives. The humans' military capabilities are impressive, but they also represent a potential disruption to the balance of power in our region of space. How can we be certain that such power will be used responsibly? Before Admiral Santos could respond, Captain Zara 9 stood up from her designated observer seat. As the being who had first encountered humanity, she had been granted special status to speak at the proceedings. Honored representatives, she said, her translator rendering her clicking speech into clear galactic standard. I have observed humans in crisis and in peace. When my crew faced certain death, they appeared as saviors. When they could have demanded concessions or tributes, they asked for nothing. When they could have used their superior technology to intimidate us, they instead shared knowledge and offered friendship. Her 4 arms gestured expressively as she continued. The humans embody the highest ideals of the Cooperative. They protect the innocent, value knowledge, and seek cooperation over domination. If we reject them out of fear of their strength, we betray our own principles. The assembly buzzed with discussion as representatives conferred with their delegations. The translation systems created a symphony of different languages and communication methods, from musical tones to complex mathematical formulas projected as holographic equations. Commander Sarah Mitchell found herself fielding technical questions about human military doctrine and capabilities. Her honesty about humanity's violent history seemed to concern some representatives while reassuring others. Our species has indeed experienced significant conflict, she admitted, to a delegation of peaceful herbivorous beings. But that conflict taught us the value of peace and the importance of protecting those who cannot protect themselves. We don't view our military strength as a tool for conquest, but as a means to ensure that peaceful development can continue without fear. Dr. Foster was having more success with the scientific community. Her presentations on human research methodology and technological development had generated enormous excitement among the Cooperative's research institutions. Your species' approach to rapid innovation is fascinating, observed Dr. Quintex, a member of the silicon-based lithoid collective. Most civilizations develop technology gradually over millennia. Humans seem to achieve breakthrough innovations through intense focused effort, combined with competitive pressure. Necessity has always been humanity's greatest teacher, Dr. Foster replied. When we're challenged, we adapt quickly. When we're threatened, we innovate. When we discover something new, we immediately look for ways to improve upon it. The formal sessions continued for days, but it was the informal interactions that truly demonstrated humanity's potential as galactic citizens. Human crew members helped repair a malfunctioning atmospheric processor, using improvised tools and creative engineering. Human artists collaborated with alien musicians to create new forms of interspecies entertainment. Human chefs worked with beings who processed nutrition in completely different ways to develop meals that could be enjoyed by multiple species simultaneously. 2 years after humanity's acceptance into the Galactic Cooperative, the galaxy learned why many species had been hesitant to embrace the newcomers. The lesson came in the form of a massive Krell hegemony invasion fleet that appeared at the edge of cooperative space, bringing with it the largest military crisis the Alliance had faced in over 2 centuries. High Counselor, Zentar's electromagnetic field flickered with stress patterns as emergency reports flooded into Nexus Prime's command center. The Krell had committed nearly 1,000 warships to their assault, far more than any previous aggression. Their target was the Centauri Collective, a peaceful confederation of colony worlds that served as one of the Cooperative's major agricultural centers. Initial reports indicate the Krell fleet is advancing on 3 vectors, reported military coordinator Voss, a battle-scarred veteran of the Insectoid Wars. They've already destroyed 2 defensive outposts and are moving toward the Centauri Prime system. At current speed, they'll reach the populated worlds within 72 hours. The assembled representatives of the Cooperative's military council studied the tactical displays with growing dismay. The Krell had chosen their moment well. Most of the Alliance's military forces were scattered across the galaxy on routine patrols and exploration missions. It would take weeks to assemble a fleet large enough to challenge the invaders. "What forces do we have available for immediate response?" asked General Thraktos of the Gorvanian Defense Corps. "Minimal," Voss admitted grimly. "The 3rd Fleet is conducting exercises near the Rim, but they're 8 days away even at maximum speed. The 5th Fleet is engaged in anti-piracy operations in the Vorthon sector. We have perhaps 50 ships that could reach Centauri space within the critical time frame." 50 ships against 1,000. The question came from Admiral Kaleth of the Aquatic Pelagic Federation. It would be a massacre. High Counselor Zentar's field patterns shifted to what humans had learned to recognize as deep concern. The Cooperative had always relied on collective defense, with member species contributing ships and crews to mutual protection. But the Alliance had never faced an assault of this magnitude. "What about the humans?" asked Counselor Mareth of the Ethereal Communion. "Their ships are reportedly quite advanced." Military Coordinator Voss checked his displays. "The Human Defense Force has been conducting joint training exercises with the Veltar fleet near the Proxima sector. They have, 12 ships in the area." 12 ships? General Thraktos's rocky features expressed disbelief. How could 12 ships possibly make a difference against such overwhelming odds? The answer came from an unexpected source. Captain Zara 9, now serving as liaison between the Cooperative Military Command and the human forces, stepped forward from her observer position. "You may not fully understand what human military doctrine represents," she said carefully. "I've observed their training exercises. 12 human warships are not equivalent to 12 ships of any other species." Before the Council could respond, a priority communication came through from Admiral Rebecca Santos, now commanding the Human Rapid Response Fleet. Her image appeared on the main display, transmitted from the bridge of the UNS Retribution, humanity's newest and most advanced warship. "Council members," Santos said without preamble, "we've received word of the Krell assault. My fleet is moving to intercept, but we need to discuss strategy." "Admiral," High Counselor Zentar replied, "while we appreciate humanity's willingness to respond, 12 ships cannot hope to stop 1,000. Perhaps it would be better to wait for reinforcements." Santos smiled grimly. "Counselor, you're thinking like the Krell expect you to think. They're counting on the Cooperative's traditional approach: gather overwhelming force, engage in conventional fleet actions, minimize casualties. But humans don't fight conventional wars." Over the next hour, Admiral Santos outlined a battle plan that shocked the Cooperative's military leadership with its audacity. Rather than attempting to match the Krell fleet ship for ship, the humans proposed to use their superior technology and unconventional tactics to strike at critical points in the enemy. Formation: the Krell Command. Structure is rigidly hierarchical, explained Commander Sarah Mitchell, now serving as Santos's tactical advisor. Take out their flagship and the remaining vessels will be paralyzed while new command protocols are established. Disrupt their supply lines and their advance will falter. Hit their communications and they'll be unable to coordinate their forces effectively. This plan requires incredible precision, observed General Thraktos. A single mistake could result in the destruction of your entire fleet. General, Sarah replied with quiet confidence. Precision is what humans do best. The Battle of Centauri Prime became the stuff of legends throughout galactic space. When the Krell invasion fleet arrived at the edge of the system, they found 12 human ships waiting for them, a force so small it seemed almost insulting. War leader Krextar of the Krell hegemony looked at the tactical display with amusement. He had commanded successful campaigns against the weak-willed species of the cooperative for decades, always finding them predictable and cautious. These humans, whoever they were, had apparently decided to make a futile gesture of defiance. Signal the human vessels, he ordered from the bridge of his massive dreadnought bone crusher. Inform them that they have one opportunity to surrender before we crush them like insects. The response came immediately, transmitted on all frequencies so the entire Krell fleet could hear it. War Leader Krextar, this is Admiral Rebecca Santos of the Terran Defense Force. You are in violation of galactic cooperative space and have committed acts of aggression against peaceful worlds. You have one opportunity to withdraw your forces immediately, or we will be forced to destroy them. The laughter that erupted across the Krell command networks was audible even through their translation systems. 12 ships threatening 1,000? It was either the greatest military bluff in galactic history, or the most spectacular act of suicide. Begin the assault, Krextar ordered. Show these arrogant humans what real power looks like. What happened next redefined the galactic understanding of warfare. The human ships didn't charge forward in a glorious but doomed assault. Instead, they seemed to simply disappear. The UNS Retribution and her sister ships activated stealth systems that rendered them completely invisible to Krell sensors. Using technology derived from their study of quantum mechanics and space-time manipulation, the human vessels existed in a state of probabilistic uncertainty that made them impossible to target or track. The first indication that something was wrong came when the Krell supply convoy at the rear of their formation simply exploded. 3 massive cargo vessels carrying ammunition and fuel for the invasion fleet disintegrated in cascading secondary explosions, their destruction visible across half the system. What happened? Krextar demanded. Where did that attack come from? Before his sensors could provide an answer, 2 more Krell vessels vanished in brilliant flashes of light, then 4 more, then 8. The human ships appeared just long enough to deliver devastating strikes with weapons that seemed to violate the laws of physics, then disappeared again before return fire could be targeted. Sarah Mitchell, coordinating the assault from her stealth fighter, watched the Krell formation begin to fragment as panic spread through their ranks. Phase 1 complete, Admiral. Their supply line is severed and they've lost 16 capital ships. Moving to Phase 2. Acknowledged, Santos replied from the Retribution. All ships begin systematic elimination of command vessels. Remember, we want to minimize casualties but maximum disruption. The human assault was surgical in its precision. Using quantum torpedoes that could pass through conventional shields and kinetic weapons that struck with the force of small asteroids, they targeted the Krell fleet's command structure with ruthless efficiency. Flagships exploded, communication relays were destroyed, and the rigid hierarchy that held the invasion force together began to collapse. War leader Krextar found himself commanding a fleet that was rapidly losing cohesion. His subordinate commanders, unable to communicate with each other or coordinate their movements, began making individual decisions that further weakened their formation. All ships concentrate fire on Sector 7, he ordered desperately. The humans must be there somewhere. But the human ships weren't in Sector 7. They were everywhere and nowhere, appearing like ghosts to deliver death and disappearing before the Krell could respond. Advanced sensor technology that humanity had developed through decades of research into exotic physics allowed them to see their enemies, clearly while remaining completely hidden. The turning point came when Admiral Santos made a decision that would echo through galactic history. Rather than continuing the careful surgical assault, she ordered a direct attack on the Krell flagship itself. The UNS Retribution materialized directly above the bone crusher, appearing so suddenly that the Krell crew barely had time to register its presence. Santos's ship unleashed every weapon in its arsenal at point-blank range. pouring concentrated firepower into the enemy dreadnought's hull. But the retribution didn't simply destroy the flagship. It captured it. Using exotic matter manipulation technology, the human ship created a localized space-time field. 5 years after the Battle of Centauri Prime, the galaxy had settled into a new equilibrium. The Human Defense Force had become the Galactic Cooperative's premier military arm, their ships patrolling trade routes and protecting peaceful worlds from the various threats that lurked in the dark spaces between stars. But it was the smaller actions, the individual acts of heroism and compassion, that truly defined humanity's role in galactic civilization. Captain Zara 9, now commanding the newest ship in the Cooperative's exploration fleet, stood on the bridge of the Universal Harmony and marveled at how much had changed since that fateful day when Commander Sarah Mitchell had saved her crew. The ship itself was a testament to human-alien cooperation, incorporating the best technologies from dozens of species into a vessel designed for peaceful exploration and scientific discovery. Captain, called her communications officer, a young Ricari named Pip who had specifically requested assignment to her crew. "We're receiving a distress signal from the Kepler 442 system. It's very faint, but the signature suggests a ship in serious trouble." Zara's forearms moved efficiently across her command console, bringing up sensor data and navigation charts. Kepler 442 was on the very edge of cooperative space, a barely explored system with no permanent settlements. Whatever ship was out there was truly alone. "Analysis?" she asked Dr. Vex, who had chosen to remain with her crew despite numerous offers of prestigious research positions. "The signal is consistent with a catastrophic power failure," the crystalline scientist reported, his faceted body refracting the bridge lighting into prismatic patterns. "Whoever they are, they're running on emergency power only. Life support is probably failing. Time to reach them at maximum speed." 18 hours, reported Thok from the engineering station. The massive Gorvanian had also chosen to stay with Zara's crew, despite offers to command his own vessel. Zara considered their options. 18 hours was a long time for beings trapped in a failing ship. But they were the only cooperative vessel in the area, and the distress signal was rapidly weakening. "Set course for Kepler 442, maximum speed," she ordered, "and transmit a message to Nexus Prime. Let them know we're responding to an emergency." As the Universal Harmony raced through hyperspace toward the distress signal, Zara found herself thinking about the changes that humanity had brought to galactic civilization. It wasn't just their advanced technology or their military prowess. It was their attitude toward helping others. Before first contact with humans, most cooperative ships would have filed a report about the distress signal and waited for proper rescue services to respond. The humans had taught them that sometimes immediate action was more important than proper procedures. When they emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler 442 system, their sensors immediately locked onto the source of the distress signal. What they found was both surprising and heartbreaking. "By the 7 moons," breathed Pip, his furry ears flat against his head in distress. "It's a Krell ship." The vessel drifting powerless in the void was indeed of Krell origin, but it wasn't a warship. It appeared to be some kind of civilian transport, possibly a colony ship, and it was clearly in desperate condition. Hull breaches were visible along its length, and the energy signature suggested that life support systems were failing rapidly. "Are we really going to help them?" asked Kelnus, the ethereal navigator, whose bioluminescent patterns flickered with uncertainty. After everything the Krell have done? Zara understood her crew's hesitation. The Krell hegemony had been responsible for countless raids and attacks against cooperative worlds. Even after their defeat at Centauri Prime, Krell raiders continued to plague frontier settlements. Helping their enemies felt wrong to many species, but Zara had learned important lessons about humanity during her years of working alongside them. She had watched human crews risk their lives to save beings who had previously been hostile to them. She had seen human doctors treat wounded Krell prisoners with the same care they gave to their own wounded. Most importantly, she had learned that true strength came not from the ability to destroy one's enemies, but from the wisdom to recognize when those enemies needed help. "Open a channel to the Krell vessel," she ordered. The response was weak and filled with static, but the desperation in the alien voice was unmistakable. The ship was a civilian transport carrying refugees from a Krell colony world that had been devastated by a natural disaster. Their engines had failed during the evacuation, stranding them far from any safe harbor. "This is Captain Zara 9 of the galactic cooperative vessel Universal Harmony," she transmitted. "We've received your distress signal and are prepared to offer assistance." The silence that followed lasted nearly a full minute. When the Krell captain finally responded, his voice was filled with disbelief. You would help us? After the war? After everything our people have done?" "Captain," Zara replied, her translator rendering her clicking speech into clear galactic standard. "You have civilians aboard your ship who are in danger. That's all that matters right now." The rescue operation that followed became one of the most significant humanitarian efforts in recent galactic history. The Universal Harmony's crew worked tirelessly to transfer over 3,000 Krell refugees from their dying ship to safety. Dr. Vex and his medical team treated injuries and malnutrition without regard for species or political affiliation. Thok's engineering crew performed miracles in repairing critical systems on the Krell transport. But it was a message that arrived during the rescue operation that truly changed everything. As they worked to evacuate the most critically injured refugees, a communication came through from Earth Defense Force Command. "Captain Zara 9, this is Admiral Sarah Mitchell," the familiar voice said. Sarah had been promoted to overall command of human military operations, following her continued successes in protecting cooperative interests. "We've been monitoring your situation and are dispatching assistance." ETA 6 hours. When Sarah's ship, the UNS Guardian, arrived in the system, it brought with it not just advanced medical facilities and rescue equipment, but also a message of hope that would resonate throughout the galaxy. Admiral Mitchell's first action was to open communications with the Krell captain directly. The conversation was broadcast on open channels, ensuring that word of it would spread throughout known space. "Captain Vorthak," Sarah said, looking directly at the scarred and battle-worn Krell commander, "I understand you have refugees aboard your vessel who need assistance." "Yes," Vorthak replied hesitantly. "But why would humans help Krell? We have been enemies." Sarah's response was simple and direct. "Captain, those aren't Krell refugees aboard your ship. They're not human refugees or alien refugees. They're just people who need help. That's all that matters. The joint human cooperative rescue operation saved every life aboard the Krell transport. More importantly, it demonstrated to the galaxy that the principles of the galactic cooperative, compassion, cooperation, and the protection of innocent life, were strong enough to transcend even the deepest political divisions." Captain Vorthak, a veteran of dozens of raids against cooperative worlds, found himself deeply moved by the experience. As his rescued civilians were transferred to safe worlds where they could rebuild their lives, he made a decision that shocked both his own crew and the galactic community. "Admiral Mitchell," he said during the final stages of the rescue operation, "I formally request asylum within galactic cooperative space. Not just for myself, but for my entire crew. We want to be part of something better than the endless cycle of raid and retaliation." The request created a diplomatic sensation. Never before had an entire Krell military unit sought to defect to the cooperative. But Admiral Mitchell's response was immediate and unequivocal. "Request granted, Captain. Welcome to the community of civilized worlds." The rescue at Kepler 442 became a turning point in galactic politics. Word spread throughout Krell space that humans and their cooperative allies would show mercy, even to their enemies. More defections followed as Krell military units grew tired of the endless violence that defined their society. Within a year, an entire Krell sector had declared independence from the hegemony and applied for cooperative membership. The application was sponsored by humanity, with Admiral Mitchell personally vouching for the reformed Krell's commitment to peaceful coexistence. 10 years after Commander Sarah Mitchell had first encountered the stellar Harmony in distress, she stood on the observation deck of Nexus Prime and watched ships from over 60 species moving through the station's traffic patterns. Humanity had not only found its place among the stars, it had helped reshape galactic civilization into something better than anyone had imagined possible. Captain Zara 9 joined her at the viewport, her forearms clasped behind her in the relaxed posture she had adopted from human body language. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you hadn't responded to our distress call that day?" she asked. Sarah smiled, watching a group of young beings from a dozen different species learning to work together in the station's educational facilities. I don't think about alternate histories much, Captain. I prefer to focus on the future we're building together. A good philosophy, Zara agreed. The humans taught us many things, Admiral.